would she be considered moral if we put her on one of those one issue voters where for some reason she is extremely liberal, but she only votes Republican because they're the only party that, let's say, is against abortion, and she truly believes with all her heart that abortion is killing children, right?
Right. Before this video gets started, I just want to make clear that I would never discriminate or treat anyone differently based on their political affiliation. And I do understand that many people who support Trump do have good intentions and think they are doing the right thing. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean we can't coexist.
Did you want to practice being the SE or the interlocker?
Well, I have never been the interlocker, so that might be an interesting experience for me.
Gotcha.
Hey, and
Did you have a claim?
Possibly, but before we get into that, I am a content creator. Is it okay if I record this?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, awesome. All right, a claim. Let's see. I guess a claim that I could make is that I tend to believe that most Trump supporters tend to be bad people. That would be my claim.
It is quite a claim.
It is quite a claim.
Yeah, from a scale from 1 to 10, how certain are you in this claim?
I would say I'm probably out of 10, maybe a 5.
Okay. 1 second. My cat's on my keyboard and it's just blaring into my ears. 1 second.
No problem.
All right. Sorry. Distraction gone. So your claim is that you believe Trump supporters do you think that people are inherently bad people and then they go for Trump to be a Trump supporter because they're bad people, or that they have been misled into being bad people?
Interesting. I would say that probably a little of each. I would say that some Trump supporters definitely were bad people previously, and them choosing to support him is just kind of not exactly a coincidence. It just kind of happened naturally because hatred is kind of attracts hatred perhaps. And then possibly some people who have been listening to them, maybe his ideas and some of his hatred has kind of rubbed off on them perhaps.
Okay. So is it just those two categories of people who have been led to evil and those who have adopted the evil beliefs because of what reason? Like, why do you think that they've been led to being evil people so easily?
Well, I think it might have to do with I don't have any degrees in psychology, but perhaps that when people listen to him, they tend to hear how he says that he's going to, for example, one of his campaign things is that he will secure the border. And people kind of buy into that because they perhaps have feelings of being afraid that somebody's going to come in and, attack them or something along those. Maybe it's kind of like a early kind of human trait that has, been passed down and we just kind of feel that way. So they kind of buy into it that way.
Okay. Do you think it just started with being a Trump supporter, or do you think that there was issues with these people before they became Trump supporters, if that was the case?
I would say... Sure. Is there a second part to that?
No, we're specifically talking about the people who were led to these evil beliefs, not talking about the people who were just automatically, who
Oh,
were already evil before believing in Trump.
sure. Can you repeat the question? I lost my place.
Sure. So were they were they being led purely by Trump, or was there like steps before this,
Sure.
before being led into believing that Trump was saying these very vague things?
I think Trump was a pretty big influence, especially early on,
Hmm.
but I don't think it was completely him. I think a lot of conservative radio hosts kind of conditioned them in a way that a lot of the hosts would spread these conspiracy theories, and I think that kind of conditioned them to believe Trump no matter what.
Ask you to clarify what you mean by an evil person in this case.
Sure. I would say someone who. That's actually a good question. I guess I don't. I probably did end up using evil earlier. I don't know if that's the most appropriate word. Evil kind of has a lot, kind of a religious heavy, and I wouldn't. Maybe that's an incorrect word. I would say perhaps immoral might be a good word. Of course, that's pretty subjective.
Hmm.
I would say the people who are judge people not based on their character, I guess I would say. Like, people who will think Muslims are all bad people just because of their religion. People who think all the Mexicans who may cross over legally or illegally are all bad
Hmm.
people. Uh, does that answer your question?
I think so. So would it be fair to say that people who don't judge individuals by their individual characteristics, but uh, just presupposed by dependent on what group you've identified with?
Yeah,
Would that be fair to say?
I think so.
Okay. So these people have uh, behaved poorly in your eyes because they group people unnecessarily. Would that be
Correct.
fair to say?
That's a fair
Okay.
statement. Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think that they group these people prematurely, not based on individual characteristics, but these groups sets?
I would say it's probably primarily comes down to fear. I
Hmm.
think, for example, if I can give an example,
Hmm.
after September 11th, 2001, that's really, I think, what sparked a lot of the hate towards Muslim Americans or Muslims in general, but
Hmm.
specifically with regards to Trump supporters, Muslim Americans. And obviously, I don't think that's fair at all, but I think fear is a big factor. And I think something that's gotten a little bit better, perhaps, in recent history is the bigotry towards gay people. In the
Hmm.
past, Republicans, conservatives have a lot of hatred towards LGBT community, right? And I think
Hmm.
that was primarily fear as well, just because they fear like everybody's going to become gay or something, which is obviously ludicrous. But I think that's the primary reason.
Okay. So is it purely because of interactions with groups or identifications that they fear them, or is it the lack of connection with people that identify with these groups that cause the fear?
I think if they had a connection with one of those groups, that they likely would not be a Trump supporter, conservative, Republican, etc. Just because
Okay.
they'd understand that person better and probably understand the group as a whole better. and they likely wouldn't hold on to that fear or that belief.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that if they had strong connections with, for instance, Muslims, they probably would be Islamophobic, or if they were connected truly to a person of the LGBTQ community, they wouldn't be anti-LGBT?
I would think that's a pretty fair statement.
Okay. Is it possible that having connections with these people doesn't make the fear go away?
Definitely. I definitely think that's possible.
Okay. Do you think that people would connect every time that their connections with somebody who is in the LGBTQ community might not connect them to the LGBT community themselves directly?
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes they can justify it by saying, well, this person, he's my friend, I know him, but the rest or the majority are, et cetera, bad or whatever.
Do you think that the person themselves would understand that every individual in a group is different or the same as that group? Or do you think that that would be more thinking on their case?
I'm going to have you repeat that one or run that one by me again.
Sure. That was a poorly worded one. I apologize.
Okay.
So would it be, we can take that as your example, that if the person has an LGBT person in their life and they separated that person from the group, for instance, would that increase the fear of that out group or decrease the fear of that out group? And you said decrease, but not always, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that having that connection then is fair to say that it decreases that fear of the out group?
I would say in many circumstances, yes, but not
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So is it just having only one connection, or do you feel like it's the amount of connections that are necessary to convince that person that the outgroup is a non-threat? I'm trying to understand the connections here. So.
Sure. I guess I've never really thought about that. I would say the more connections that there is, the more likely they are to understand the group as a whole. I don't think there's a number I could really pick to say, oh, you have 10 connections, therefore there's a very, very little chance that you're going to have any type of hatred towards this group.
Okay.
But I just feel like if there's more connections, they're more likely to understand that group of people and see them as individuals rather than just one entity, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that people of an outgroup who already know that the individual or the conservative in this case doesn't like them, do you think that they'll be open in communicating that they are part of that outgroup if the conservative is not aware of it?
Probably not. I mean, I guess it's one of those situations where you'd have to know all the details, but I think in many cases they'd probably feel uncomfortable.
Okay. Do you think that it would be a possibility that more and more people will not communicate how they're part of an outgroup if the conservative has made it very clear that they don't feel comfortable talking about these things, or that it seems like a threat?
Yeah, I'm not. I think I know what you're asking. I don't know if I'm going to answer it directly in the way you asked, but I think what you're getting at is that the individual that is a part of the out group may not feel comfortable telling the conservative Trump supporter, whatever, that they are a part of that group. Therefore, the conservative Trump supporter may not ever knowingly interact with somebody who's a part of that group.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or they'll be interacting with the outgroup, not realizing that they're interacting with that outgroup.
Right. Yeah, I do think that happens quite often.
Okay. So I'm going to try to clarify what you stated so far. That the connections themselves are not 100% guaranteed, and the person is not going to be less fearful of that outgroup. That there might be interacting with that outgroup, but they might not be aware that they're interacting with that outgroup. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be considering, like, when they interact with people of their in-group, is that a reflection on whether or not they're good people overall, or no?
Can you run that by me again?
So when they're interacting, when they have like interactions between either people that are on the outgroup but they are unaware of the outgroup position, or people within their own community, their own in-group, does that reflect at all on how they are, quote unquote, good people or moral people in this case?
I suppose it would depend on their actions themselves.
Okay. So if a person is very, what you would consider moral in this case, we're not, I'm going to try not to get into like the details of morality, but something that you would agree that they're very moral to the people in their in-group, and they're cold and not so forthcoming to the people in their out-group. Would that make them automatically a bad person, or is it just separate? Are you separating those two interactions and considering them a good person here but a bad person there?
With regards to this person who is not telling them that they're a part of the outgroup, are we talking about, who are we referring to? And
if you want to specifically like narrow it down to an example to make that easier, I apologize if that sample was kind of confusing.
Let's do an example.
We can say, so Sue is a conservative, right? She's very, very kind to Janet, who is a fellow conservative. But from what she understands of, sorry, I was trying to think of a name, Willow, of what she knows of Willow, he is a very liberal person, and henceforth is very cold to him. She doesn't do anything directly to him that is mean, but she's not forthcoming with help ever.
Okay.
Is she considered a good person by your standards?
I guess with regards to her daily life, I would say yes, she's probably a good person. With regards to how she votes, perhaps, and her voting Republican on the ticket, assuming that she's doing that, and the policies that they put out, perhaps that's not exactly moral.
Okay. Would she be considered moral if we put her on one of those one issue voters, where for some reason she is extremely liberal, but she only votes Republican because they're the only party that, let's say, is against abortion, and she truly believes with all her heart that abortion is killing children, right?
Right. In that circumstance, I guess I would say no. I would... Yeah, I guess I wouldn't... I mean, on one hand, some of the policies are really destructive, but I guess he's doing it for the right reason. Huh. I guess she would. I think she would be okay, morally speaking, in my view.
Okay. Does that decrease your certainty by any chance?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay. Did you have any questions for me? Usually SD conversations are pretty short. I think this would be a great place to stop it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this place is a pretty good stopping point. Yeah, that actually helped me reflect on that really, really well. Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, of course. Glad I could help. Thank you for letting me practice.
Yeah, no problem at all.
All right. Well, have a great day, and I hope you get your awesome day together.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.